Alright, since the first time was a monumental failure, we're going to try this again. The product I'm going to discuss is called Password Safe. It's a basic, an old, yet still functional and up-to-date password manager. Here's the website. It's a secure site, pwsafe.org. And then if you were to click on the download tab here in the middle of the screen, it will take you here to FossHub, where you can actually select your installer that you that will apply to your system. Now, setup is basic, primarily like you would at any other program. Give permissions to your system, and then it's a simple install. When you first install Password Safe, prior to this screen, you would see you would have to give a safe combination, which is your password for getting in. After you put that in, it will take you in, and this is just because I've had other instances of it open. It'll ask if you want to open it read write, and that's what I'm going to select. So here what we're looking at is the actual repository. What this system does is it allows you to manage all of your passwords that you may choose in one location. I've created some dummy data here. I made an email group, recipe group. If you look along the top here, you can actually add a new entry if you wanted to, where you could either type in a new group, or you could choose one of the groups you already have. Username, whatever the username is associated with a particular password, that would be the username. You can provide a title, and then here for password, you can put your own in and then confirm it, or you can have the system generate one. And if I were to show this, see, here's the generated password up above, and then it doesn't give you anything to go off of down below, but we're going to go ahead and hide it. You also have the ability to attach this password to a particular URL or an email. And if you were to so choose, you could also put some notes that maybe give you some kind of clue as to what the password is for. Additional info, if you had auto type where you had it tied into a let's say a URL login, you could do that. And then if you had to run something from the command prompt, you could do that as well. There's a password history here. You can determine how many of the last passwords you'd like to keep. And then you could also select an expiration date on your password if that's what you should so choose. Password policy. There is the default policy, but if you wanted to change it, you would click on the use policy below and then select from these various options, or you could just use hex only. That would be up to you. So we're not going to save this, but we will, however. Let's look at, let's say, this particular selection. We'll go ahead and edit the entry. Now I could lock it to where I couldn't change anything, but right now it really doesn't matter since it's dummy data. We'll go ahead and edit this entry, and you'll see here in the group recipes, the title, the recipe for lasagna, the username, the password. We can show it. It's no big deal. And then I just threw a URL in there, and then now you notice here in the notes it says that they're hidden. You can click here to display. So if I were to click here, then it just gives you the short note about this particular password that is contained. It's fairly straightforward, easy to use. Now there is the ability to export data. If you export, you can either export to a text file or an XML. I chose to export to an XML file, and then I turned it around and put it in an Excel spreadsheet. Now remember, because this is password data, if you export this and then decide you want to delete that file, the best thing you could do is to use a shredder. Just because you don't want to take the chance. Like a lot of people have maybe 2 or 3 passwords that work for everything. Somebody was to get hold of that physical document or the digital file that you exported, then they would have access to likely many things you wouldn't want them to have. So again, I turned mine into an Excel file, and what you see here is where the database is, what time I exported the file. Here's the format, and then it was me that saved it, what saved, when it was saved. This is the actual database that's created within the system. And then if you go down here a little further, here are the titles that I had given them. My username was the same, and here are all the passwords. That's the key part that we don't want to be discovered. Okay. If you look a little further down, there are a possibility of expiration times, like this one in particular. For the sake of example, I went ahead and put an expiration time. Down here further, you see a URL, and then you see the notes, the particular notes that I had placed on it, and then there's an expiration on these as well. It's very simple to use. You do, like anything, you have to get in, get used to it. For instance, up here, like I showed you, was the add new entries. Now, if I wanted to, I could go up here to options, and let's say it's just me that accesses it, which right now it is, of course, and I want to display the passwords in that initial view. I would select the show password in free view, and see, then you can, when you were to open up, use your master password, your combination, so to speak, to get in here. This would populate, and then you could look at each of your accounts, and there's the password you actually use for them. I personally don't like that. I don't mind going through the extra step and having to view the entry. That's just, it's personal preference. Various, like I said, various things you can do with the system, but you need to get in here and take a look and work your way around it. This isn't a full-blown tutorial. I would recommend, at least initially, and you can, I should say, you can protect these. So if you hit protect it, and then I go back into this one, you can't edit. You only have view function. So you can't change any of this data as it is. It's just there to stay until you unprotect it, which it's not a big deal, but if you're the type that maybe fat fingers stuff like I might, then you might want to use that function. All in all, fairly simple. If you're the type of person that has, like most of us, has multiple passwords, multiple systems, multiple accounts, then this might be a good repository to have on hand. And there is a mobile version, so if you were to use a mobile version, you could do that and make it highly transportable. There's also an ability to add an additional layer of authentication by getting something. It's an additional key called a YubiKey, and you can get it through Amazon. You can get it, I believe, through the App Store and through Apple services as well. It just gives you that additional layer of protection if you were to feel as if that was needed. That is password safe, and I believe that is all I have. Thank you.